Mm, there are 2-3 questions. Basically, one can ask, can you explain in Sinhala a little bit? But I don't think I can talk in Sinhala, but for the time being, it's a little bit difficult. We'll see. So why can't we credit it into the asset account under the cost model? Why we can't credit impairment loss to the asset account? Can you explain final question regarding evaluation? So could you please explain again? Not clear. Right. Okay. I can understand, but your situation. I will again share the screen with you. Now here in this question, now you have to remember we are right. For the first question, to answer the cost model, you have to remember if we are keeping anything, any value under cost, whatever the provisions has to be maintained in separate accounts. That is for accounting information purposes. We can just straightforward credit this impairment loss to the asset account. That is not a problem. Then you have to ask the same question, why when you do the PPE, why you are not crediting the depreciation to the asset account? The depreciation we credit to the accumulated depreciation account, not to the asset account. But you can have the double entry into the asset account even. If you do it, your accounting information is narrow. Meaning, you know that in accounting there are estimates. We perform many estimates in accounting. There are more subjective judgments. So thereby, when you do estimates, the nature of the estimates always changing. So thereby, it is better always to have our estimates in a separate set of accounts to provide more relevance and reliable information. That's why we are having a separate accumulated depreciation account, not the impairment loss account. Before that, you want the accumulated depreciation account. Even at A levels, you did the accumulated depreciation account. You didn't credit the depreciation to the asset account. Likewise, under cost model, we credit the impairment loss to the accumulated depreciation and impairment loss account. The reasons, I don't have more time to explain. The reason is it involves accounting estimates. Where accounting estimates involved under the cost model, so better to have an accounting information system separately for those estimates, because estimates are subject to change. For example, you may tell that tomorrow morning it's going to rain. It's your estimate. But you know, by that time, tomorrow, when we reach the tomorrow, no rain, no rain. So thereby, estimates may change. Estimates subject to change. That's the nature of the estimates. I think I answered the first question. Cost model, no argument. Impairment loss we recognize in a separate provision account by charging it to the P&L. Then coming back to our fair value model question is I think most of you all are raising the questions on this revaluation model. When you do revaluation, you have to remember, when you do revaluation means you are trying to bring, you are rejecting the historical cost. Revaluation means the technical word used in the LKS 16, property plant equipment, revaluation model. Even though it is revaluation model, what we are trying to do is we totally reject the historical cost related figures. We totally reject historical cost related figures, and we are trying to incorporate, recognize in the books the fair value related figures. That is the meaning of revaluation model. But when there is a surplus between previous carrying amount and the new carrying amount, new value, the standard says under LK 16 that has to be recorded in a separate account, that is revaluation surplus. I'm talking only the surplus only. I'm not going to talk about the deficit. It will take little time to explain it. Are you clear? When you adopt the revaluation model, what happens is your carrying amount reflect the fair value. You reject the historical cost. So when you bring fair value to the accounts, what we did was the previous recorded data or the amounts or the recognized amounts we removed from the books. When you do the revaluation, we do it. I think I don't have time to discuss an example, but you have to remember when you do the revaluation, you transfer the accumulated depreciation to the asset account. You reverse it. Likewise, in impairment, if you adopt the revaluation model, we assume that you are following the fair value model. When you do the fair value model, when you are trying to bring new fair value to the books, what happens is previous data not relevant. You have to remove it from the books. Is it clear? Wherever you have the revaluation model, if you are bringing a new value, when you bring the new value, what happens is in financial reporting and financial accounting, previous recorded amounts are not relevant. You have to bring the new fair value, new relevant, new reliable, the relevant information into the balance sheet. So thereby, what I want to communicate to is that when you bring a new value to the accounts in relation to this particular case, the new value is you are going to bring 900,000. You know that due to less demand for your product, your asset is not really working. And now you know, so example, now think about, if I ask you, shall I give you a land phone? Shall I give you a land phone with wire? Would you, what is your answer? I'm asking, I have a big phone, I have a good phone, I'm giving it to you, but it has to be, it is wired. So I have to put a wire to your home from the street. And what is your answer? So your answer is, I don't need a wire. I need a wireless communication. So thereby, what I want to communicate to you is that due to this high, digitalized, technology, whatever the wires around the country, throughout the country, then උඩින් ගිහින් තියෙන ඔක්කොම සෙල්ටි එකේ තියෙන ඔක්කොම කණුකම්බි ටික, you will see that getting impaired just because of technology. So what I want to communicate to you is that here the 900 is the new fair value, new book value, which is not really the cost. Earlier also you had a fair value, but this 900 is a new fair value. When you bring new values to the books, whatever the provisions already in the books should be eliminated and transferred to the respective related assets. This accumulated depreciation is related to the asset. It's an asset account. Even though it's a credit balance, you have to remember the accumulated depreciation is an asset account. So thereby, when you remove the assets, what is provided already should be transferred to the asset account. And also always any surplus deficit we consider as revaluation surplus. That's the logic in impairment under revaluation model. Impairment under revaluation model. Any surplus, any deficit we consider as revaluation surplus. The deficit, if there is a deficit, we reduce the revaluation surplus. In this case, we debit the revaluation because it's a deficit. But on the other hand, if you did the revaluation again after 5 years, after 2 years, then you will increase the revaluation surplus, which I don't know. Even reversal, yes, case. So what I want to communicate, if you just throw it away the historical cost and you are bringing new values to the books, what is already estimated, getting outdated, or remove from the books and transfer it to the respective asset account. That is the logic. I hope you understood what I'm telling. Since I don't have a blackboard and whiteboard and other, a smart board, difficult to explain further. I'm struggling with the time given to me. So thereby I don't have more time to take simple example and all that. Anyway, just look at the activity 9 point, I think yes, activity point 9.9. I have simplified this. Maybe the carrying amount of the assets 3 million. Company has received an offer of 2.8 million. That is the fair value. Fair value has received an offer, not yet sell. But it's an exit price. The present value of the estimated cash flows of the asset use is 2.7 million, which is value in use. So in this case, what is the recoverable amount? We take the higher of fair value and higher of value in use, which is present value, which is 2.8. So thereby 2.8 is the recoverable amount. Agree? You have to listen to me very carefully. The recoverable amount is in this case 2.8 million. But carrying amount in this case, how much? 3 million. You see that the carrying amount is more than recoverable amount, so thereby 0.2 million is the what do you call the impairment loss. Very simple. So what I want to communicate by giving this example, I just want to take that you have to take whichever is higher, not the lower. But remember, when you say present value of the estimate cash flows, we intend value in use, VIU. When you talk about the offer, we talk about the fair value, less to cost of disposal. That you have to understand the terminology we are using. Present value means value in use, VIU. Okay, so thereby we take the higher of that. Carrying already what is in the books is so much. So the impairment loss in this example is 2 million. Okay. Right. Shall we go to the next one? I think I have given you the answer. Hope that this is correct. Okay. Shall we go to the next? Then we are discussing the cash generating units. Cash generating units. This is a little bit complicated, but you have to understand very clearly. You have to listen. If you couldn't understand, you have to read it. There is no alternative. Reading is a good habit. If you don't understand, you read it. But I will try to explain at my level best. We'll see. Cash generating units in the absence of goodwill. No goodwill. Very difficult to explain this. No goodwill. Huh? Our focus has been on individual assets where both the fair value cost of disposal may FE minus CD කියලා කියන්නේ fair value cost of disposal. CD means cost of disposal, and the value in use be measured. Individual assets. For individual assets, both you can measure. That means fair value cost of disposal and fair value in use. But fair value less cost of disposal can be determined for most assets. Individual assets, very easy to discuss the fair value minus cost of disposal. But many individual assets do not generate cash inflows in their own right. Machines in the factory works in conjunction with the rest of the assets in the factory. You go to the KFC, you go to the Pizza Hut. There are, of course, machines. My question is, can they generate revenue by itself, by only the machines? Just think. My answer is not possible. So machine plus the trade name, machine plus the pizza, machine plus the McDonald's is, the collection of those two assets, which is machines, which is tangible. The name of the McDonald's is, intangible. The collection of these two will generate the cash flow. So thereby we consider the total assets as cash generating units. Can you remember? So thereby, even you go to a factory, even you go to a manufacturing setup, say car manufacturing, you go to the Toyota, or a simple organization manufacturing setup, the machine itself cannot generate revenue. You need other related assets. You need other related assets. Not only the machines, maybe the computers, maybe the softwares, maybe some other equipments. You need a building to keep your machines. So thereby you generate cash by using collection of resources, not by individual assets. So thereby, by this bullet, the second bullet indicate that when you take businesses, most of the cases, individual assets are not generating cash flows, but collection of assets will generate cash flow. When it is not possible to determine the recoverable amount and individual assets, entity should determine the CGU. What is CGU? Cash generating unit. It's a pool of resources, collection of resources. When you collect different resources, you get the synergy. Synergy means additional force. When you work alone and when you work group, the two results are different. Better to work in groups, team works. Cash generating unit also similar. By using cash generating units, most of the businesses generate their income, generate their cash flow, generate their profit. So thereby, cash generating unit is important in impairment. But here we discuss in the absence of goodwill. I will take the goodwill later on. The impairment test is applied to the cash generating unit, not to the individual assets. In the cash generating units, you may have the building, machines, computers, plants. So there are 4 individual assets, but you have to remember, when there are cash generating units, we are just evaluating the cash generating units. We are doing the impairment for cash generating units, not for the individual assets. Cash generating unit is defined as, this is the definition. I know that you can understand the meaning of cash generating unit. Meaning is that they say that the smallest identifiable group of assets that generate cash flows that are largely independent of the cash flows from other assets or group of assets. When the cash flows are generated basically independent of other assets, other group of assets, you consider it as a smallest identified group of assets, which is we label technically cash generating unit. I think you have visited the supermarket, the Keel Super, maybe Food City, maybe Glowmark. You will see that in different centers, City 1, City 2, City 3, City 4, there are centers, branches. So how do you treat them? You consider all Keel Super branches as one unit, or you consider Keel Super different centers at different cities as different units? That's the question. Our answer is has to be the smallest identifiable group of assets generate cash flows that are largely independent. So the branch itself generating cash flows without depending on others. The branch itself earning money without depending on others. If you depend on others, no. Answer is no. So thereby, independency, the independent factor is important when designing the cash generating units. I will be discussing this a little bit more later on, but we'll take two examples just to understand. Just read it and see what it is. A bus operator requires 4 licenses. You need 4 licenses to operate buses. To operate buses in 4 different routes. There are 4 routes and 4 licenses. We don't know how many buses. Of these routes, 3 are profitable routes and 1 is not profitable route. But there is a regulation requirement. What the government says that to ensure that the transport service is available at all the routes for the public, has put a condition that all the routes must be run together. Otherwise, the bus operator cannot be allowed to run any transport facilities. Meaning is that just because of loss-making route, you can't say, I am not going there. I'm not providing my service. You have to. Otherwise, the government will cancel the 4 license. So thereby, what is the cash generating unit? Yes? Yes. So you have to remember here the cash generating unit is the total business, the total bus operator, including all the buses plus the 4 license is the cash generating unit. Not individual buses. You may have different buses, 10 buses or 20 buses, but you can't consider each bus as a you can't test for impairment each bus, because the buses are working in 4 different routes, altogether. So thereby, the bus operator as a whole, we consider as a cash generating units. Just look at the next one. An entity owns a dry dock with a large crane to support its activity. You know the meaning of dry dock. There is a large crane, which is a machine. The crane could only be sold for scrap value, and cash inflows from its use cannot be identified separately from the operation directly connected with the dry dock. You know that this particular crane can sell separately, no problem. But when you do the business, the dry dock we consider as cash generating units. Crane plus the large crane plus other supporting activities, other machines which are related to providing other supporting activities are really categorized. We will put them as a cash generating units. Okay, cash generating unit in the absence of goodwill, identifying a cash generating unit. These are the factors you consider to identify the cash generating units. These are the factors, very important. How does the management monitor the entity of operations? How do you manage it? How do you take the decisions of the continuing and disposal of the entity's assets and operations? Is there an active market for output of a group of assets? If the output is used internally, can it be sold outside the entity? I think, of course, you may face a difficult to understand for these four points. We'll see one by one. Now, suppose I think you have all visited the branches, maybe bank, maybe a food city, maybe a Keel Super. How do you see the management style there? The manager there, the branch, does he or she is having more autonomy or less autonomy? Can she take her own decision? How do you see? We don't know really. We have to ask, we have to search. But the thing is, you know that there are two concepts, centralization and decentralization. I know that you have learned this decentralization or vimadhyagata saha madhyagata krame. I think you have learned these two concepts. I can remember your school time when you are in grade 5. What was your decision making pattern? Grade 5, grade 6, grade 7, grade 8? You are taking decisions. You are not taking any decisions. Your mother, your father will take the decisions. That means you don't have the decision making power. That means your decision making is centralized. But now what is your situation? When you are getting older and older, when you are in the grade A level, what it means the A level class, what was your decision making pattern? And now what is your decision making pattern? You have more autonomy now. You take some decisions now. Maybe by informing your father, maybe without informing your father. So now you have the autonomy. You have the power to make decisions. That means you are independent. When you are in grade 5, you are dependent. Are you clear what I am telling? So thereby, if your business units, whatever the group, whatever the branch, whatever the segment, if running independently with more autonomy, you are a cash generating unit. If you depend on others, if you depend on other resources, others people decision, you are not a cash generating unit. That's the idea. So thereby, even you measure your results separately, you might measure your performance separately, but if you depend on others, you are not a cash generating unit. I don't know whether you understood it or not, but that is my explanation. Dependent and independent. For example, entity operations, decision making, continue or dispose. Entity operation means who do the purchasing decisions, who recruit employees, who monitor it, and who reward it. You know, operations when you are running a business. And if you want to sell a machine, part of your machines, who take the decisions? Something like that. Then the next two are different little bit. These two are from marketing perspective. These two are from operational side perspective. Now, if there is an active market for the product or output, if you have a separate market, if you have a separate customer base, if you have separate clients, so you can consider your business can or group can consider your collection of assets or your branch, your segment can be considered as cash generating units. If not, no. If you have separate set of customers, no problem. Suppose you have the parent and sons. How do you consider? How do you do it? Cash generating unit or not? Answer is that the particular branch, whether it is having autonomy or not, and do they have a separate market? If the output is used internally, can it be sold outside? So in certain cases, the business, when you have the group structure, you may have output, your division may have output, but that output is being used by the other division. Now suppose yogurt manufacturer. To manufacture yogurt, you need the sugar. You cultivate sugar, the whatever the items, plants. The sugar production may use total sugar production of your company may be transferred to the other company of the group. Your output is selling to the internally sugar to produce yogurt. Maybe you might have a plastic manufacturing, cup manufacturing unit. Your cups, all the cups are sold to the internally, not you are selling outside. Our fundamental question, even though you are selling internally, do you have a separate market for sugar? Do you have a separate market for cups which you produce for, you know, kind of yogurt manufacturers? If answer is yes, of course you can consider as a, you know, cash generating. So those are the matter. Now you will realize, now what I want to communicate to you by taking these 4 points, the financial accounting standards, there are no specific solutions. All the solutions are depends on professional judgment, your knowledge, your skills. You decide. That's why we call it financial accounting. Accounting standards are not rule based. Accounting standards are principle based. That is the logic. We take the decision based on principles, not based on rules. I think you can remember. The rules, when you walk on the road, there are rules. You follow the rules. When you walk on the road, you have to go to the, you know, right side. But when you say principles, the principle base are based really, there is no particular conclusion. Conclusion depends on the context. Now, if I ask you, how do you see the depreciation? It is an expense or something else? Depreciation. Normally, you depreciation you charge to the P&L as expense, but you have to remember depreciation is not an expense. It depends. In certain cases, depreciation may be capitalized. You consider depreciation as an asset. Interest, expense. Do you think interest is an expense? No, it depends. But normally you may say interest is charged to the P&L, but interest may capitalize. So thereby, what I want to communicate to is that in financial accounting, there is no particular specific decisions. All the treatments, all the double entries, all the recognition criteria, all the recognitions depends on the context. So thereby, when you want to, if you want to be a very good accountant, you should have the skills. You should know the business, you should know the operations, you need to know the finance, you should know the other calculations, you should have the general knowledge, autonomy, decentralization, international market. You should have a wide range of knowledge to make the professional judgment. So I just want to highlight for a you know, to be an accountant, you need a very good professional judgment. So you will realize by when I discuss these 4 matters, you will realize that. So thereby, cash generating unit is a matter of judgment. We judge based on certain criteria, based on certain characteristics of fundamental, but basic principle is we raise the question, are we independent from other units? Are we independent from other groups? If the answer is yes, it's a cash generating unit, but there are many variables for you to evaluate, and you have to evaluate and decide the cash generating unit. Is it clear? Cash generating unit must be must consistently. The consistency principle also applicable when you decide. Yesterday it's as a cash generating unit. Tomorrow also you have to consider it as a cash generating unit. Then a segment to be used as can be, most of the segments, you know, segmental reporting as SLFR is 8. I don't think that you have a clear idea about operating segment. Operating segment means when you have a entity, reporting entity, that particular entity might have different businesses, maybe transportation business, maybe consumer foods, maybe retail business, maybe leisure, hotels and all that, maybe entertainment business, maybe property, maybe you have in the financial service, you may have a bank, you may have, you know, leasing companies, finance companies, or you might have some other IT related business, manufacturing related business, tile business. You are running a, you are having a wide variety of segments, business, though those we call as segments, but how to categorize into segments or grouping, uh, guideline is given under SLFRS 8, but I don't have time you to discuss with the SLFRS. But basically, most of the group of companies, Haley's, John Keels, you know, Aitken, Spence, whatever the group of companies will have their segment. Maybe based on business wise, maybe based on geographical wise. Geographically, they might have Sri Lankan market, they might have Asian market, they might have Europe market. If you go to the Haley's, their geographical segmentation is Sri Lankan, Asia. Asia means excluding Sri Lanka, Asia and the Europe. They provide the products to those segments or the geographical areas. I think that's okay. Shall we go to the next slide? Time going fast. In the absence of goodwill impairment, yes, impairment loss arises when cash generating units of the assets recoverable amount, you know, when the carrying amount is more than the recoverable amount, determine the impairment loss. Principle for determining the recoverable amount, the same for cash generating units. The basis, what we discuss, fair value less cost of disposal and value in use, all are same. Accounting for the impairment loss, the loss of a specific asset should be first adjusted. Specific loss should be adjusted first. Then the balance should be allocated pro rata basis. Pro rata basis. Pro rata basis is very simple. When you have two people in your house, if one yogurt is given to you, how do you allocate between you two, your sister and your brother? Same thing, when there is a impairment loss, we need to allocate in a pro rata basis. Pro rata means, I will explain what is pro rata later on, but here it's given, but I don't think you can understand it. Then losses are accounted for in the same way as individual assets discussed earlier. Okay, accounted කරන්නේ අපි කලින් individual assets discuss විදියට you charge to the P&L and try to the accumulated impairment loss. If it is cost model, the fair value, if you had a revaluation model, the story is little different. Right. I think we'll focus on the straightforward answer number, activity number 9.2. I think here it is. Yeah. Sri Lanka Printers Limited has a printing process comprising four separate but highly interdependent assets. That means you consider printers as one unit, printing machinery as a combined cash flow generating point, asset A, asset 2, asset 3, asset 4. There are 4 assets in the printing department, printing limited, but you consider all these assets as one unit because you assume it is a cash generating unit, CGU. Now you see carrying amount total is 1 million. After considering various issues, it was determined that the Value in use of this cash generating, which is calculated at present value amount 8 million and alternative the fair value less cost to sell of enter this machine 750. Right. I think you can very easily now. Now what you can do is, you know, the carrying amount. Carrying amount is 1000. Again 1 million කියන එක මම කෙටියෙන් ලියන 1000 වලින්. Recoverable amount. What is recoverable amount? There are two figures. One is 800, okay, which is value in use. Other one is fair value. Fair value is 750. How do you take? Which one is taken? 800 you will take as the recoverable amount because which is higher, and 200 is the you know, impairment loss. Agree? Impairment loss is 200. Explain the accounting treatment for the impairment loss. We know the impairment loss is 200. How do you treat it? Impairment loss, basically this 200 we will be charged into the P&L. Definitely. And provision for impairment loss, asset 2, asset 3, likewise, we will record in a separate way. We will see the answer with this. What is the answer here? 750. I think impairment loss is very clear. Now you will see impairment loss 200. We allocate pro rata basis. මෙන්න මේ අනුපාතයට මොකද්ද? 1:2:3:4. එතකොට අපි මොකද කරන්නේ? How do you do it? So we take really now you see the impairment loss is 200 in 1000 divide by 1000. 1000 කියන්නේ මොකද්ද? Here 1000. So what is the impairment loss for this 100? That is called pro rata basis. 200 total impairment loss, divide by the total carrying amount, multiply the respective carrying amount, the unit 1 asset. So it is 200. So this has to be 240. This has to be 60. This has to be 8. That is how you allocate. So thereby, what would be the journal entry? P&L will be debited. P&L debited by 200, which is a kind of expense. Cumulative, what do you call accumulated impairment loss. Accumulated impairment loss, asset 1 credit, asset 1 credit 20. Accumulated impairment loss, asset 2 credit another 40. Accumulated impairment loss at asset 3, because our accounting information should have separate information. That's why we are crediting into separate asset account. In accumulated impairment asset 1, accumulated impairment asset 2, accumulated impairment 3. Likewise, you credit into the respective asset account. That's all. Okay. Shall we go to the next? Cash generating and goodwill. Impairment testing for goodwill. The assets goodwill can only arise in the business combination. It cannot be internally generated, revalued and amortized. It is subject to impairment testing. Meaning is that internally generated goodwill means intangible. What do you mean intangible? Assets which cannot be touched. Intangible. Goodwill internally generated. That means that if you are running a business, you may develop a good name. Suppose in your village there is a good bakery. A bakery හොඳ පාන් හදනවා. Very good breads, and all are buying the breads. So they have their own goodwill brand name. ඉතින් අපි කියන කොයිලා ගියත් පාන් ගේනවා නම් අසවල් ටවුන් එකේ අසවල් බේකරි ගේන්න කියලා. That is the goodwill. But goodwill has developed by business itself. ඒකට අපි කියනවා internally generated goodwill. But sometimes you may acquire another bakery. When you acquire another bakery, you are not buying the assets of the bakery, physical assets, plus you buy their good name also. That is the goodwill we are focusing. Purchase goodwill, we call it business combination goodwill. It is subject to impairment testing. If the goodwill recognized, subject to impairment. Goodwill is a residual balance consisting of assets that cannot be individually identified, separately recognized. Therefore, it is not possible to determine fair value less cost of disposal. Very difficult. No, there is no market information for the goodwill. So always the balance. When goodwill is recognized in the business combination, it must be allocated to one or more unit. You allocate to one or more unit, requires goodwill to allocate the lowest level at which management monitors the goodwill, and goodwill can only be tested for impairment at cash generating unit. Goodwill is only tested for cash generating units. Impairment of testing goodwill. Now you see this example, right? Where the cash generating unit has goodwill allocated to its cash will must be tested for impairment at least annually. I think I have to stop this time and also for recording purposes, give me little time, and I will come back another 15 minutes time. Sorry, we will give you 5 minutes. Then within 15 minutes, I will try to finish the session, but I have to stop the recording